Hello viewers, welcome to Mythology. This is a subjective type of question paper comprising of questions from the 4 chapters, namely circulatory system, nervous system, diseases and first aid, and finally food production. So the first question is a diagram based question which is highly expected in your final term paper. Here this diagram has certain labelings and based on that the questions will follow. The first question under this is you got to name the structure, then label the 6 parts. Then in the C part, you have to name its 3 types. Then the way in which they communicate with one another. The E portion is to name this association which is intended to be shown in the diagram. And then you go to sketch the structure which is spoken in subpart E. And finally in that diagram, you go to label at least 3 distinct parts in the drawing that you make. Then we move on to question number 2. Here it begins with a diagram of the human heart. Again, here are 6 labelings, 1 to 6. There are more marked places with X, Y, O and L. All these will follow up in the successive questions that come below this main question, question number 2. So let's see what are the subparts that you have to answer. So the first one is, how is this X different from Y which is shown in the diagram? You got to give the name and also differentiate depending upon its musculature. Then you got to label the parts from 1 to 6. The C part is, what is the function of vessel number 2? Then part D is, how are the structures 4 and 5 different structurally? Then subpart E, where is vessel number 1 taking blood to? Subpart F, you got to name the middle part which is marked as L. Then G, who discovered human blood circulation? And finally, you got to name the structure which is marked as O in the diagram. Let's move on to question number 3. Here, you got to answer accordingly. First is, you got to define what is vaccination. Then you got to name 2 vaccines that use toxoids. Subpart C, you got to name a vaccine that uses fully virulent living germs. Then part D, the type of vaccine that TAB is and the disease against which it is used. And finally 2 diseases against which the weakened germs are used in the type of vaccination. So here we covered a part of the chapter on diseases and first aid. These are quite important portions, so you may expect them in your exam. Then we have question number 3, subpart B. Under this again we have several other subparts, where the first subpart A of B is, what do you understand by first aid? Mention 2 measures against burns for first aid when it is a superficial burn and then when it is a deep burn. Subpart C is first aid against unconsciousness. Subpart D is first aid against the leg fracture. And subpart E is to give 2 points on the first aid for any kind of sting. Next is, you go to sketch an yeast cell and label at least 5 parts on it. Then you got to mention 2 uses of the yeast cell. And the subpart C is to give the scientific name of the commonest yeast known to us, or the one that is used largely in several food processing. Now, distinguish between the following pairs. In this, you got to distinguish between the lymph and the blood, closed and the open circulatory system, aquaculture and pisciculture. Then subpart D is between an artery and a vein, and then between heart attack and cardiac arrest. For these distinction between the pairs, you got to make a tabulated form, and the emphasis is to be laid on the point which is given in the brackets against each of them. Like for lymph and blood, you got to differentiate based on its components. So in lymph, you have definitely plasma with the WBC, whereas for the blood, it is with RBC, WBC and platelets. You may give it a like if you find the video useful. Share it with your friends and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll come up with the answers to all these questions in my next video. Till then, happy learning. Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned for more such updates from time to time.